Hello, everybody. Today is June 23rd, 2024, and it is late evening here in southern Arizona. I'm doing a new series. I think if this catches on, I want to do just a series on, recapping my day and especially in these chasing monsoon type of photography ventures that I do, and just break it down a little bit for you so you can kind of see what I have. And to top it off, this was the shot that I got. I just love the fact that it's almost uncropped. Actually, all I did was I cropped it just to get that horizon a little better than it used to. But I will show you what that looks like. And I will talk a little bit about the editing process if you're interested in this. And I'm going to do this as fast as I can. And if this kind of instructional, tutorial helps, and it helps anybody out there about the gear I use and the equipment that I use and the technique and the process, maybe if it benefits you, just leave me a comment, would you? And give me a follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But basically, this is a shot from yesterday. I'm just going to show you yesterday, and I won't go into too much. But yesterday was kind of a bust for me. I ended up traveling all the way to Tucson, and all I got was just lots of rain. As you can see, this nice, pretty storm cloud up near Marana, and it didn't produce any lightning. As you can see in the entire strip there, I was trying to capture lightning, and it was a pretty storm. And for me, it was worth it just because I got to get out there and chase storms. But that being said, it was really windy, the gusts, and I ended up with the car full of dirt and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, it is what it is. And I know some people hate when they say that. But today, down near Nogales, the forecast called for storms forming in and around Nogales, and this is just east of the airport of Nogales, Nogales International Airport on the east side of Nogales, Arizona, which is just along the U.S.-Mexico border. And what was so cool is I was almost tricked into going to Patagonia. I'll just keep going through these as I'm talking. And there was a huge severe warning storm in Patagonia. I ended up turning around in the little town of Patagonia, driving back west here and perching up on this little hill just because everything started to just go bonkers down where I initially thought I would be chasing. And as you can see here, if I just go back to library here, it makes it a little easier to change. But as you can see, as soon as I got up here, this big storm was just dropping tons of rain, and that peak that you saw before, which was right back in here. This is going to be Mount Washington, east of Nogales, and it's pretty much completely being just inundated by that storm. And as I continue along here, this is just the first camera, and I'm only going to be talking about the first camera. I did have another camera going, and it was actually time-lapsing, and then I was using the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 to vlog, and I was also using the Osmo Action with my car facing a little bit more to the right as this other storm, which I'll show you. As you can see, once I got excited to see this other storm form in front of me, wow, and then my focus is off. It happens when you're nervous chasing storms. I turned the camera to the right, and this just big hailer of a storm and downpour just started going bonkers. And it would have been great to get a bolt. That was the objective, is to try and get a couple of bolts, but most of the lightning was inside the rain. But even though the lightning trigger that I was using, which is called the MK Controls Lightning Bug Plus, I will talk about that in just a second. Even though that trigger was triggering, it was going off and it was actually capturing these. This is not a time lapse. These are just photos that the lightning bug was trying to capture lightning, but most of the stuff was inside the cloud, so you really couldn't see the lightning, but it was doing its job. And I just love here, as I go forward here, look at the structure on the left over here. It's just absolutely fantastic, and the time lapse is going to look just bonkers. And I finally pointed the camera to the left, and we even had this rising scud into the base of this storm. And as you can see on the left is that Patagonia storm moving, or just continuing to grow, and both of these started to form a multicellular cluster, basically just a huge storm combining into one. And you can just see it's really about to come down at this point. Really excited to see that. Honestly, this was my favorite part of the day, seeing this right here, just watching this almost like a face start to form as these two cells begin to merge. And you have a little bit of structure in the clouds above as well. And like I said, these are just the previews. And the camera just kept going off. It's like there's lightning in there, but in the storms. But finally, you get to see these storms just kind of merge together. And as I go to pretty much to the end, as you can tell, the storm to the left is finally raining out. You can see the Mount Washington way over there on the left, finally poking out, through the heavy rain. And it was time for me to go because this storm was almost on my doorstep. So I packed up, drove all the way towards the town of Arivaca, and I had to turn around because that storm that you just saw ended up making it further to the northwest over near the town of Arivaca. I came back out, drove this little dirt road all the way looking at this one tiny cell that popped out that I was able to shoot successfully. Everything looked kind of ugly at this point. I was just kind of hoping for something and hoping for anything where I was safe. And I did capture a bolt here. It's really nothing. I probably won't ever even share it just because, it's just a little bolt on the other side of the mountain. But then I saw the bolts a little further to the right. And over here on the right, this is known as the Cerro Colorado Mountains, northeast of Arivaca. And of course, like you'll see I missed another bolt. There's so many misses in here, and that's just the nature of the beast when you're storm chasing. And I was in a position where it was starting to sprinkle, but I was still in a safe place away from it. Now, if you know this area, this northern end here, when you look closely, you can see that the northern end of this mountain range is really pretty. There's a lot of jagged features, and it's a really pretty feature. So I decided to go for broke, and as I did, I zoomed in my camera here, my Tamron lens, and I zoomed in, hoping to get something over these peaks. And lo and behold, let me just show you when I do the develop here. This bolt just came out of nowhere. Actually came out from the storm, which was way off to the left, and landed pretty much somewhere over these cragged rocks here. That would have been great if it was on this side. But let me show you what it looks like if I show you before and after. This is the raw image, and for some reason, I don't really care for the, that almost a yellowish color to the sky. It didn't look like that to me. So I did some editing, and as you can see on the right, I did darken the sky a little bit, considerably, to be able to see the bolt better. And I really like a warmer mountain range, and everything's kind of yellowish and greenish, which I don't like. People will say it's the Sony tones. I don't know. I never had a real problem editing all that, but I also wanted to show you, like, look how much detail is brought out into this. And this is a brand new lens, by the way. Speaking of lenses, at this point, I can show you what I was doing here, and you can see the settings here. I captured this shot using the Tamron 28 to 200 millimeter lens, and I will show you the type of lens here and all the gear in just a second. But I shot this at 1/15 of a second at f10, ISO 100. I tried to keep my shutter speed around 1/15 of a second to capture lightning, somewhere around there, anywhere from 1/15, 1/10 of a second, maybe 1/25 of a second, somewhere in that area. And then I will adjust my aperture. Usually in the daytime, it's going to be something like f18 or something, or f15 if I can. But it was kind of dark because of all the cloud cover overhead. And I try to keep my ISO at 100 or lower if I can sometimes. And I did use that focal length to really focus in on these peaks. And I was going for broke because most of the bolts were over here on the left. But I was lucky. I was lucky, and the bolts, this particular bolt, I wasn't even sure. I thought I missed it. In fact, I remember telling myself, like, oh, geez, when I saw the flash, because I thought it landed again behind, and I was ready to pack it up. And then I chimped the back of the monitor on the back of the screen on the camera, and I looked back there, and sure enough, I had captured this bolt. So, yeah, and you saw the before and after, so everything is the same there. I will do this for you. And I will show you that this is the camera that I was using, the Sony a7R3. They've come out with another one called the R3A. I think it's got a couple of extra things, a better screen or something. but it's still the same sensor. Great camera, 42 megapixels. I've had this camera. It was my first camera when I switched over to Sony uh, years ago from Canon to Sony, just because I love the dynamic range. And this camera's been a workhorse. It's been a real. You can get it at B&H with the card and a bag and an extra battery for $21.98 here. And I will just I have to say that I have currently have three Sony Alpha. I have the A1 and the A7S3 as well, and I just happen to have this one with that particular lens. And here's the lens. It's a Tamron 28 to 200. I only recently bought this lens because I thought that sometimes I might need that reach. It's relatively inexpensive, and I was a little worried about it because I do have a lot of really good Sony lenses. But I just wanted something that I can keep on one camera. If you ever shot with Sony, you know that unless you have one of the newer lenses where the shutter closes, that open shutter, or not open shutter, but when you open up, when you take off a lens, you can clearly see the sensor. And it's just, especially living in the desert, it's just always getting bogged down with or covered with sensor spots, just dust spots, and I'm always having to clean it. Not really a problem if you get in the habit of keeping your sensor clean, but I would rather keep a lens on it, and this one's going to stay on there. I've never used it before. This was my first time I actually put it to the test, and you can see the image quality. I will say that it's not bad. It's not the worst. I would call it image quality very good for shooting this at 117 millimeters. Capturing the bolt with enough detail and sharpness, I thought that was good. And to be able to capture some of the detail in the rocks even that far out, that's not too bad. I will say my Sony lenses are much better at capturing detail, and just the overall image quality looks much better. But for just kind of a knock around lens, I will say that I do also own the Tamron 28 to 75, and I've owned multiple versions of those. The first generation, second, I think there's a third generation. So that one's a little more expensive, and it's just 28 to 75, but it's a superior lens to this one. But I'm going to say today, I am not sad that I used it today, and I got a good shot based, using it. And how did I capture the lightning in the middle of the day? I will just go and tell you that I love using the Lightning Bug Plus here from mkcontrols.com. I thought it was a really, I used it last year when I had to get out on a storm chase, and I jumped in and I did that. And so I am now a huge fan of MK Controls, and if you click on Lightning Bug Plus, you can order one for $199, whatever, or you can choose another Lightning Trigger device as well from the LT4 from Lightning Trigger. Works really well, more expensive. I've been using those. I have multiple versions of those, or multiple units, I should say, and that works really well. And then I have also used the Myops. It's the orange one, the orange box. I forget what it's called, but it's a Myops trigger, and it works relatively well. It doesn't work as well as this one, but if in a pinch, I still carry that one with me too, and I throw that on a camera if I need to put a trigger on a camera as well, in addition to the Lightning Bug Plus that I have. So there's a user manual. As always, if you are going to chase lightning, please do so safely, as safe as you can. Obviously, if you're chasing lightning, you're risking certain, sudden death and all of that good stuff. And I can tell you, as a victim of being struck by lightning, I think it was around the year 2000, I can tell you that it is a revolting experience, and it is not fun to have to deal with and contend with. So make sure you guys stay safe, and I hope that this was informational for you. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below and let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Have a good one, everyone.